Okay, so we're back with Mishlei 10:24, and this is a kind of a weird pasuk to translate. Okay, so we'll do the best we can here. Megoras Rasha hi sevoenu v'ta'avas tzadikim yitain. So Megoras, no one would know Megoras, I don't think, without looking at any translation. So Mitsuda Stavi says Megoras is inyan pachad. Okay, it means fear. Kamo vayagar Moab, like Moab was afraid. So the fear, and all right, fine. So okay, actually, you know what? I won't translate. Who wants to try translating the pasuk? Maybe I shouldn't have said it's a hard one.
I could try.
Yeah, go ahead, Mayan. You try.
Okay. From the fear of a Russia.
So I think the mem is actually part of the word itself. So it's just the fear of the Russia.
Okay. So the fear of the Russia. She will come. Is it from like
Okay.
Bo?
Yeah.
And
And I'm going to go ahead and say it will come because we speak English, and
yeah.
in English, then we don't say she like that, even though you're right, technically. Yeah. Yeah.
And the desire of the righteous ones will give.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So that's how I translated it the first time also. Okay. And I think it's all good up until yitain. Okay. And there's a grammatical reason why it will give is not going to be, yitain does mean will give, but there's a reason why this doesn't quite work out. If anyone spots it in Hebrew.
Like because you're talking about multiple desires? Because like multiple.
So tava is in the singular here, so that part works out.
Is it that he will take instead?
No, but you did say the answer. So you said he will give or he will take. All right. So it really is. So in other words, when you read it, you naturally want to read it as the desire of the tzadikim will give, but tava is feminine and yitain is masculine. So there is a he here. Okay. So he will give. Okay, and that's ambiguous. All right, and I know this is, you could list this as one of the questions, but I think this is more of a translation thing. So what are the possibilities for who the he is?
God.
Okay, one is God. All right, and if you look here, side you go and says for yitain, he says yitain lahem Hashem. Hashem will give them. Okay, so one possibility is let's just do the possibilities here. Okay, he is either Hashem. Okay, what's another possibility? Or the tzaddik. Okay, even though tzadikim is plural, but there are those who say that it's the tzaddik. For example, if you look at don't read any of the commentary yet, the Ibn Kaspi, remez v'yitain lenosein lo niskar. So it's mentioning a giver who is not mentioned. V'hu hakel o hatzadik atzmo. So he says it's either God or it's the tzaddik himself. Okay.
Can it be the Russia?
And Russia's the third possibility. Or
could it be like Russia. An outside source also, like for both of them?
Yeah, it could be okay, or yeah, we could put that, or some unnamed giver. Yeah. All right, so that's going to be just an open, and I'm calling it a translation question because, like, I mean, in English, you're going to have to take a stance on whether it's lowercase h or uppercase h. Okay, so that's that. All right, so let us go to our translations here. Okay, so we did Mr. David, we did Sadigon. Sadigon says Hashem will give. Okay. Targum. I always forget to look up the Targum, so let me see if I can translate it right now without looking anything up. Yeah, okay, so already it's different. Charitzusa derashia hi asya le. Rigagasa, that's a fun word, rigagasa, the tzadikaya kisyehev lahon. Okay, yeah. So anyone know what charitzusa means? This is a weird one. I don't even know if this makes sense. You know what charitzusa is the Aramaic word for charitzus, which I'm just going to double check and make sure there's not a weird meaning of charitzus. We might have even had it in a pasuk that we've done of charutz. In fact, we did, but it was a long time ago. I have no idea whether it's a modern Israeli Hebrew or.
Does it mean diligent?
Yes, diligent, exactly. Yeah. I'm just going to make sure that is the correct Aramaic. I mean, I don't know why it wouldn't be. Haritzusa. Yeah, I mean, I think it is. I think it's diligence. Yeah. All right, fine. So that's strange. The diligence of the wicked will come to him. He asya le will come to him. The rigagasa de tzadikaya, and the rigagasa is a word for desire. This is a fun thing. I don't know what this means, but the Ramban, I assume this is from a midrash, but the Ramban says that the word esrog comes from ragag, which means to desire, which means tava. So the desire of the righteous, tis yehev lahon. I think that means will give to them. And I think, and this is where my Aramaic grammar breaks down. I think tis yehev is feminine. So it might be that he's saying that the desire will give to them. So I don't know if that's going to help us. We can feel free to ignore the Targum. Art Scroll says, what, oh, I think this is supposed to be what the wicked one fears will come upon him, and God will fulfill the desire of the righteous. Okay, so that is basically like what one of the possibilities we said. Living Knox says, that which the evil man dreads comes to him, that which the righteous desires he grants. Okay, also with Hashem. And then Alter says, what the wicked dreads will come upon him, and the desire of the righteous is granted. So he's kind of like making kind of like the thing that Avital suggested is just omitting any mention of who's doing the giving here.
I
Okay.
think.
Yeah.
Oh no, I was just saying. I think it was my aunt that said that.
Oh, my aunt? Okay, yeah, I wasn't sure. Okay, all right. So I'm okay erasing these. I don't think any of these are substantially different than the ones I have here. And unless anyone is particularly attached to the Targum, we'll just delete the Aramaic for now and just keep this up here until we decide that we don't need it anymore. Okay. All right. So let's go with questions here. So obviously the first question is, who is doing the giving? That's fine. Yeah. Okay. What else?
The fear of the wicked will come to whom?
Okay, good. Yeah, that is actually a good point, because I was assuming automatically it's the Russia, but it doesn't say that. So the fear of the wicked will come to whom? And I like that you got that grammatically correct. Whom? Yeah.
I also feel like there's two options for the relationship between, or the way of viewing what the fear or what the desire is.
Yeah.
Meaning, are we talking about a type of fear that wicked people have and a type of desire that righteous people have? Or
Okay.
is it fear of wicked people?
Okay. So we'll phrase that generically first, which is, what is the fear of the wicked person, and the desire of the righteous? Is it referring to the fear that the wicked person has and the desire that the righteous person has, or is it referring to fear of the wicked and desire for the righteous? Yeah. I don't know. It's possible, by the way, that there is a grammatical way to answer that, but if there is, then I don't really know it. Like, I'm inclined to say that ta'avas tzadikim means desire of the tzadikim, not desire for the tzadikim. But for all I know, there could be another way to read it where it means desire of the, like, for the tzaddik. And then Magoras Russia, the word Magora I've never seen before, so that's why I'm not even sure about that. Yeah, Ariel?
Yeah, can you also ask like what will come? Like it will come. What will
Yeah.
come?
The fear.
The fear will come.
Yeah. Or that, well, okay, here's what you could ask. Okay, you can say, is it, okay, hold on a second. All right, what does it mean that the fear of the righteous, of the wicked will come? Does it mean that the fear itself will come, or does it mean that which he fears will come? Okay, meaning
Or
the feared object, the feared thing. Yeah.
Another possible option is that there's the same, whatever is given at the end can come through fear or desire. Meaning, like,
so
it could be an unknown thing that's coming.
I see. Meaning okay, right. That's a good point. So, you know what, I'm just going to say then, so let's just get the other question down here also, which is, what is desire of the righteous, and then let's convert what Zach is saying into a question, which is, what is the relationship between, well, we'll say between the two halves of the pasuk, like we usually say, but then specifically between that which the wicked, between the fear of the wicked and the desire of the righteous. Now, I just want to point out, because this is also, I think, a translation thing, that Sadia Gaon in his commentary, and I think maybe the Meir, no, not the Meiri, Sadia Gaon and someone else say that this could be one of the ABC deep psukim, that's our code name for it, which is that you could apply each half to the other half also. So you could say that the fear of the wicked will come, and the wicked will not get what they desire, and the fear of the tzadikim will not come, and they will be granted what they desire. So again, that's a common style in Mishlei where it's just stating, it's just stating it economically because it's a proverb, but it expects you to fill in the blank.
Well, I mean, I guess what I'm wondering, I don't know if I said this well before, is that the "it will come" could refer to another unknown option, such as, like, let's say, like a good outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know if I should hypothesize a possible, like a random way of looking at it. I'm just to bring out the point. But like, through fear, you can arrive at a good outcome. So if you're always getting like burned by the bad outcomes, you'll eventually arrive at the good outcome, versus like the desire of the righteous, he will get the good outcome that he desires without those bad outcomes. So there, the "it will come" isn't referring to the fear of the wicked person or anything that he fears. It's referring to the same thing that's being given at the end of the pasuk.
Okay, you could say that, and the only reason I'm going to not entertain that as a possibility for our purposes is because I think everyone says that it means the thing that the Russia fears, or the fear itself will come. So I'm gonna assume that that's like that the other reading is doesn't work out. But like, if you get an idea from it, then great. But
yeah, I was more saying it not for the idea's
Yeah.
sake, but for the
Just for the
question's
reading.
sake.
yeah, I mean, I'll tell you one thing that I think maybe some of us are picking up on, which is what do you call it? Which I think these questions are coming from. It is weird that it pauses and says "it will come." Like it should just say "Megoras Russia Tivoenu." The fear of the Russia will come. What? Why the? I'll list this here. Okay, why the awkward, halting, dramatic phrasing of the fear of the wicked person, it will come, right? Feels kind of dramatic. Like, is it the exclusion? Like, is it just emphasizing it? Like, it will come, or is it like saying it to the exclusion of something else? Like, you might think something else will come, but no, it will come. Like, is it? I don't know exactly what to make of it. Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Can you scroll down to the other questions, because I might be repeating a question, but I'm not sure.
Sure.
What does it mean? No, I don't think it's there, but what does it mean that? Oh wait, now can you scroll to the last?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Wait.
What does it mean to give desire?
Yeah. So we did not ask that, right? Yeah. So what in what sense is the desire of the tzadikim, of the righteous, being given? Like, how does that work? Is your question, how does that work?
Yeah. Also,
Yeah.
are we sure that the giving is the desire? Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So then, yeah, how does that work?
Yeah. I think that's also one that everyone, all the Mufarshim said. Okay, are we missing anything? Any questions here? Well, I think our usual question does apply here, which is the practicality in the audience. I think it's not clear, like, who this is for and what it's for. So, who is the audience, and what is the practical application?
I mean, also, like, what is a Russia and Tzaddik in this context?
Yes, you're right. We didn't ask that. That's an important question. Okay, so let's actually put that at the top here. What are the definitions of Russia? Oops. Of sorry. Yeah, of Russia and Tzaddik in this context. Yeah.
If we're saying that the fear of the Russia, that the fear will come, what's the Russia fearing?
Yeah. Good question. Yeah, I'm just gonna put that under here, which is if the latter, what is it that the wicked fear, and then what is it that the righteous desire? Yeah, those are important questions, and I feel like even though we said it, it needs to be asked explicitly.
I mean, it's also interesting that like normally when we associate, I mean, when we talk about desires, it's talking about like someone's, desire.
No,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Oh yeah. Normally it's talking about a desire that like we should control or something.
Right.
It's almost making it seem like it's like a positive thing.
Yeah. Okay. So
what kind of a desire are we talking about here?
Yeah, that is a good question here. So what is desire of the righteous? And then I'm going to say furthermore, what is the implication of the word ta'ava, which is usually associated with base, instinctual, negative desires. Now, I'm not saying it's always associated with that, but like, if I say like tava, like you don't automatically think, oh, that's what the righteous have. You think of a base desire. And like, there could be other words, that, there are nicer words for desire that it would use for a tzaddik. Like, anything come to mind? Maybe I'm just prejudiced by this because I just learned a parak and Tehillim about it.
You could share it.
Is chafetz, Kim b'torah Hashem chefzo. Chafetz, it means to desire, but it's like desire for like sublime things, not like an animalistic desire. So, yeah.
I feel like there's also other Perakim and Tehillim that use Tava in a positive sense. I can't remember which one specifically,
the one that comes
but
to my mind is oh, actually no, it's a different one. I was thinking of thirsting for David and Melech, thirsting for the living God. But yeah, that's why I'm not saying it's like exclusively used for that, but definitely the primary distinction or the primary usage is instinctual desire, or like in the Chumash when it says b'chol avas nafshecha, eat meat. Like the desire for meat eating meat is being used with ava. Okay, so before we have our thinking minute, I'm just going to announce this because I know I'm going to forget if I don't announce this. So I was asked how long this year is continuing in terms of like in the calendar. So definitely Bli Neder, 3 more weeks. So the last week of May, and then the first 2 weeks of June. And then the 2 weeks after that, I'm going to be in Hawaii. And that's just not going to work out time-wise. It's going to be too complicated. And then after that, I'm not sure because I kind of feel like I need a break from everything for the first month of the summer. But then I'm coming back to New York in the end of July, and I'm going to be like giving shiur in yeshiva for a couple of weeks. And like, as long as my schedule for that works out for this, I can see myself starting up for those 2 weeks. And then whether I go for the rest of the summer, I don't know. Ariel really wants to finish the parak, but I think we have 8 psukim left in the parak. So like, if we don't finish the parak by the beginning of next year, then that's fine because there's the Christians invented the prakim anyway. So like, it's not like we're finishing it anyway. So let's do this. So for the next 3 weeks, we'll plan to have shiur, and then after that, let's plan to not have shiur for like basically the rest of June, and then like first half of July, and then we'll be in touch, in terms of like, if I decide to give shiur over the summer for a regular Mishlei slot. But I just wanted to say that before I forgot.
I mean, we could finish the parak without you, and we'll just send you our shiur.
Yes, we don't. Yeah. We're gonna say something else. Someone said something.
Yeah, I just had I don't know if we asked this question, but like, is this always true, or like, is it sometimes true?
Okay, that is an important question, right? So, under what circumstances is this pasuk true? And I think that is good to ask about any pasuk, but for this one particularly, it does not seem to be true. Like, I feel like there are Rishaim who don't get what they fear, and I feel like there are Tzadikim who don't get what they desire, you know? So and again, it's not like Mishlei has to be true in every single case, because Mishlei is on everyday decisions which are in probability, which work based on probability. Like, it's true to a large extent, but the question is under what circumstances. And if you do read it as though he's like saying it's always true, so we have to understand how that works, because it doesn't seem to be always true. Okay. So, this is gonna be awkward here for us to get it all on one screen. There we go. Okay, so let us take our minute to think, and then we'll do what we usually do of half-baked ideas first, and then full ideas later. I'm going to merge these two questions. Okay, so who has a half-baked approach or partial answers to particular questions that they want to get out on the table here?
I have a very unbaked. Oh, sorry, Shifra.
No, Mayan, go ahead.
Go, Mayan.
I've okay. I was just thinking about how the first half of like the fear of the Russia seems to be something passive, and like the giving of the taiva of tzadikim is like something active. And I was thinking of like this is where the thought ends, but like the first half being something of like a self-fulfilling prophecy of like the fear of the Russia being self-fulfilling prophecy, and the desire of the tzadikim being something about schar ba'onesh type. Which
okay,
is like,
can you just explain what you mean when you say passive versus active?
Meaning like when something like the fear of the Russia will come, like the will come is not like there. I feel like there doesn't necessarily need to be a third party there.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Okay, I see what you're saying. Meaning, yeah, giving is like, yeah. I don't know if active and passive are the right words, but I don't have any better words. Yeah. Okay, so you're saying that there is something about the Russia that causes the thing he fears to come about like automatically. When you said self-fulfilling prophecy, you meant is that what you meant, that like,
I mean,
or are you saying more that because of the nature of his fear,
yeah, I was thinking the second part.
Okay, I see. So the fear of the Russia is what's causing itself to
present itself. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Good. All right. I hear. I get the half baked though. Okay. That definitely feels like something. Okay. And then the desire of the tzaddik will be given makes it sound like a more of an objective reality from outside, not coming from his own thoughts. Okay. Good. I like that's a very, very nice for people who like soft challah, the gooey challah. Then that's a very good start. Yeah. Okay. Anyone else? Shifra, did you want to say something?
I really can't tell if I'm saying the exact same thing as my own.
Okay, that's fine. We can hear from a different angle.
But I think the beginning part of mine is a little bit different, because I wouldn't say self-fulfilling prophecy. I was thinking more of like, it's just consequential. Like, it's just like it's not schar. Like the second part is more of like like the righteous deserves to be given his desire, and then the first one is more like it's consequential that like his fears will just come true because the
Okay,
things
yeah.
that lead him.
I think that was the clarification question I was asking when I
okay,
asked no. So it is, those were two possibilities. So that's
okay.
Good, yeah.
I had like also a half-baked idea.
Sure.
That both of them are like focuses, like clearly like both of them have things that they're like, I don't have a different word for like focusing on, like the tzaddik with his desire and the Russia with his desire, but like the difference seems to be, and this also might be similar to Mayan, that like with the Russia, he just sees it as a fear almost, and therefore like when that's your focus, like that's what usually happens, things that you get like super fixed on, like a lot of times that's like what you become like entrenched in kind of. And the tzaddik instead I think looks as it as some opportunity in giving of some sort. I'm having a hard time with Utain, but
okay. So you know what? I'm going to make a suggestion here for the three of you, or for the three things that you guys said, and this is a methodology point here, which is that certainly when we get an idea in Mishlei, then it will help clarify it by looking for a real world example. Like as I think that's what you should do in every case. But then sometimes when you have a half baked idea and you're not clear on it, trying to find an example that matches your intuition might help you actually refine the idea. So if either of you want to give examples of either Shifra saying that the fear, there's going to be a consequence of it's going to come, or Mayan saying the self-fulfilling prophecy, or Avital saying that the fixation is what brings it about. If you could find examples of that, then maybe that'll help us.
I was thinking specifically like with the thing that I gave, that let's say like I think there would be like different scenarios, because I feel like Tzadikim and Rishaim have like different situations. Like let's say a tzaddik who's like a little bit concerned, let's say about let's say like this has been on my mind, I'm about to do NCSY, but like with Kirib, like you want to do good things, but like there's also that scary thing that like you could be affected by whatever it is that's going on, or these kids, but like because you're proactive about it, then he's like he ends up giving, versus a wicked person, if they're worried about, let's say they're not, let's say they're doing something wrong, they're like stealing money from people and they're afraid they're going to get caught, they get so caught on the thing and like making sure that nobody sees them, that like either they messed up with something dumb, or like because they were so afraid they like ended up getting caught.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay, that's a good example. Hold on just a minute. Oh yeah, Ariel.
Well, you were gonna respond to Avital.
I was gonna say that it reminds me of the I feel like this happens, and I don't know, I don't have a specific example in mind, but sometimes like politicians who are so emphatically like denying doing certain types of wrongdoing that like that itself leads people to think that something is up, like that's a red flag, and then that lets them that leads them to get caught about that. And that definitely helps me understand where you're coming from here. Ariel.
I was actually thinking more along the lines of like what Shifra was saying about like the natural consequences. I mean, like the example that I would give is, I don't know, I was recently watching like a mob movie, and like like looking at, I think it was like The Irishman, I forgot what it was, but anyway, like they live like a certain type of lifestyle, like they're always like in fear of what's gonna happen to them, based off of what they're doing, because the lifestyle that they're living lends itself to, oh, like, will the cops come after me? Oh, will I get whacked, because I did something wrong, or like whatever. And like he may be like he may not like, and I think the pause is that he may not be aware of it so much. It may be like a subconscious thing. And this is like the part I'm still, debating whether it's conscious or not, but like I'm just gonna go with that. Maybe it's like he's aware of the fear, but he kind of like shoves it down
Yeah.
And it kind of just lives the lifestyle, and it automatically just like slaps him in the face, you know, and
so it's
he
like, no,
gets that.
Yeah. Is it meaning like it becomes like a paranoia almost like
Yeah.
you know, it's yeah, that's there's a pasuk in Mishlei. Okay. What movie? There's a movie that opens up with a quote from Mishlei. It's a good movie, and it opens up with a quote that says, "The wicked flee when none pursue," which is reminding me of what you're saying here of the there's certain lifestyles of wickedness that like I'll give you like an example. I was just talking about this morning in Mishlei I was talking about the more like the really powerful Rishayim rulers become so powerful, but the more powerful they get, the more they are worried of a conspiracy or of a coup or of like, you know, people in their inner circle who like they think they could trust and they really don't. And like it just becomes this assumption that like there could always be like a threat to this, you know. And so is that what you meant by like the unconscious fear or like the
yeah. I think so. And like that kind of consumes him, you know,
right
at the end.
So and when you're saying that that's the pause, are you saying that like that's why it's expressing it like it will come, like it's expressing it in a like
I think so. I think it could be you know, either circumstance or like what you were saying, the position that the power that he acquired. It could. I'm not really sure. Yeah, it's more like a half-baked approach. But like the second half of the pasuk, you could say that, you know, the tzaddik is living a lifestyle where he just wants to, you know, where he wants to help everyone who needs it, and he's also thinking, I guess, you know, long term for what he wants to accomplish, and he puts things in motion based off of his actions that will just naturally lead to him getting what he desires, because what he desires is that righteous lifestyle, not just for him but for everyone.
Okay. What you just said now is close enough to my understanding of the pasuk that I'm going to refrain from commenting on it until after I hear from everyone else. Okay, but that's like 70% of my idea. Okay, so
Okay.
So to be continued. Yeah, Zach.
So I actually also have a thought that's very similar to that.
Sure.
And it just supports it a bit and maybe has a little bit of a extra thought at the end. But so I was also thinking along the lines of natural consequences. And it reminded me of a study that I think has been replicated more than once, but it's basically, I think the study I heard about, I think was about students in medical school. And they basically watched the students go through medical school and divided them into groups of givers and takers and neutral. They wanted to see who would be the most successful based off of how much of a giver they were versus a taker. And initially, the first report was that the takers were more successful, but they did a follow-up report 10 years after they graduated, and the givers were much more successful than the takers, just through, so to speak, the natural consequence of what the kind of, I guess, structures and support systems that the givers had around them, or whatever. You know, there's more analysis, I think, that goes into it. But I think if you push that to the extremes, the givers are those righteous people, and the takers are the wicked ones who are very focused on themselves and willing to hurt others for their own gain, versus the righteous people who want to give of themselves to others. And so I think there is a natural consequence that study shows, which is that naturally, by being willing to hurt others, you ultimately set yourself up for less success. By being a person who does care about helping others, you're setting yourself up to get greater success. The question that leads me to is something that I think some people touched upon a little bit. I think Mayan brought it up, how it says it will come in the first half and he will give in the second half. So one seems very much in line with the natural order of things, whereas the other he will give, if it's a natural occurrence, then why is it necessary for him to give?
Yeah.
And
Good
so
question.
I was thinking a bit about that, and I was wondering if it's possible to say that the thing that a righteous person wants, the thing that he desires, is the benefit of others as well, not just himself. So the natural occurrence would be just for his own benefit. That would be natural, but to have the people around him and other people that may not quite deserve it as much see that success as well, it has to be given. And one like story, and I'm not exactly sure how to analyze it, and I know it's a complicated story, but it just came to mind, so I'll share it, is with Avram and the city of Sodom.
Yeah.
And he was using arguments like if there were a certain amount of righteous people in the city, that maybe the city would be spared. I feel like that might fit into this, meaning that the righteous people might desire to spare a city, and a city might not deserve it, but he'll give that desire, like he'll answer the desire of that righteous person. And that's why in the second half, it's not following like the natural order, because the natural order is only that the tzaddik himself sees success. But there's like an added element that goes beyond just his personal success, but that fact that he desires the success of others, and that will also be fulfilled.
Okay, so I hear the I hear the main idea, and I hear your explanation of Yitain. I think just for the sake of my own focus, I want to focus on the main idea now. We can circle back to the Yitain afterwards. Anyone else have any? I also agree that it is in line with the similar approach to what Ariel is saying and what I'm about to say. Anyone have any other thoughts in line with this approach? Because I think we should really articulate this approach now, and then we could always come back to a different approach later.
And I agree with the approach that the fulfillment is like consequential for both cases, natural consequence. The only thing I was going to say with the righteous person, because his desire is in line with Hashem's will, that's why it's fulfilled. It's got to be.
That's good. Okay, I like that answer. Okay, that's good. I might like that answer better than the answer I was going to give. So I'll have to repeat that when we go over it. Anyone else?
I have a question.
Yeah.
I think I'm confused if we mean that like the fear of the wicked person is like his paranoia is what causes him to fail, and that's the consequential aspect of it, or if like just the things that the wicked person is doing that like that itself is what causes the downfall.
I do think that there can be an approach in saying the self-fulfilling prophecy thing, but I'm saying the action-based one. Yeah. And so I'm gonna do this. How about I'm gonna say my version of the idea as I understand it, that I think Ariel and Zach are also saying, and then you'll hear what I have to say, and then like if there are differences in what Zach and Ariel are saying, or if there are other questions, then we'll tidy it up. So I think my idea starts with the definition of tzaddik in Russia, which we've done before, but I think it'll help clarify the idea. So the way we defined it before was that a tzaddik is a person of tzedek. Tzedek means that you are doing what's best for the system, okay, and helping. And the system is in this context is, I mean, it's true of any system, but we're talking about systems of people, where different people are working together and they all have their needs, and there is a certain whole that they're striving towards, which will benefit everybody. So whether you're talking about a family or a school or a workplace or a country, so the tzaddik has a desire, and I don't know exactly why I use the word tava. I have a theory, but let's just say it's desire right now. What's his desire? The tzaddik's desire is to do what's best for the system. Now, we've said before that it doesn't necessarily even mean in an altruistic way. The tzaddik knows he's part of the system, and he knows that if he does what's good for the system, it's going to be good for everybody, okay? Now, why is it that it will be granted? Because here's the thing, is that once people see that the tzaddik cares about helping the system, and they see that they're part of the system and that they're going to benefit, they are going to want to do whatever they can to allow the tzaddik to help them. They're going to want to cooperate in a way that will bring this about. And the only obstacle would be if they couldn't see it. And that's something else that we said that the tzaddik does. We had another pasuk earlier about how the tzaddik will be able to, let me just bring up the pasuk.
Or he would orchestrate it.
Yeah, the orchestration pasuk.
Yeah.
I just want to read it because it's been a while. I think that was about a tzaddik.
Yeah, I think it was like 2 psukim ago or 2-3 psukim ago.
Yeah. Sipsei tzaddik yiru rabim ve'evilim b'chatzar lev yamuso. Yeah, exactly. So the lips of the tzaddik will nourish the many, or will shepherd the many, but the evilim in the lack of a heart will perish. So the main idea there that we said was that the tzaddik will find ways to help everybody, even evilim who are opposed to taking from the tzaddik. So tzaddikim are very good at this. They will be able to make sure that everyone's on board, and bring the awareness of how everyone's going to benefit if the system is benefiting. So they will get what they desire, because either what Naomi said, that is in line with Hashem's will, or they themselves will bring it about, meaning the tzaddik himself will bring it about, or the unnamed giver, meaning the members of the system will grant their desires, because they're going to see it's in their best interest, and that's why it's going to come about. I see your hand, Rifki. I'm going to state the first half of the pasuk now, and then I'll take questions. So, what about the Russia though? So the Russia we define as someone who is not only does he not care about the system, he's basically trying to impose an alternative system on top of the system that is self-serving, that culminates in his power or his greatness. And he will trample on other people and deprive them of their needs and relate to them in an unjust way in order to satisfy his own power. Okay, now what's going to happen is when you're dealing with human systems, there is going to be a breaking point. There will be a point where either the members of the system will not take it anymore and they will retaliate and see that and they won't stand for it and they'll overthrow the Russia, or because the Russia is trying to corrupt the entire system, then the entire system will fail and he will lose his power. So like, let's say for example, in a like let's say the Russia is trying to, I don't know, use cutting corners and like oppressing his workers in the factory in order to like generate extra profit, and he's doing it in this oppressive way and it's not working for the company or whatever. So what's going to happen? So either the people in his company are going to rebel and overthrow him, not overthrow, I'm going to use the word overthrow by companies, but whatever, or the ways that he's cutting corners are going to eventually catch up to him, and let's say there's going to be a disaster, like the product he's producing is going to the plane he produces is going to crash, and like it's going to affect him. In other words, the nature of systems is such that you can't just make up a system and hope that it's going to work out. If you try to oppose the systems in reality, you will fail. It's just a question of when. So the thing that he fears, and that's the thing that he fears, is the worst fear of the Russia is losing his power. And it will come about because of his acts of wickedness. And to answer your question, Shifra, that's what I mean by the consequential thing, is that it's not even the self-fulfilling prophecy thing. Like, he might not even be aware of this, but just because he's trying to take advantage of people and to push his agenda on the system, it will eventually result in a breakdown. And again, this is perfectly Mishlei Mida K'neged Mida, because the tzaddik wants something, and because his desires are in line with reality, he will get it and it'll work out for everybody. And the Russia, because he's trying to like live this fantasy, it won't work out and he won't even get what he wants. That's the main idea. Now, Rifki, why don't you ask your question, then we'll tie up all the loose ends.
Yeah, so my question was, it also could be that like I'm just not fully hopping because I had to come a little late, but I just feel like these ideas are like very, not like basic, but I feel like I really don't see a chidush. Meaning like with the first half about Russia, like I know, like we did with Mrs. Fader that we spoke about, like I think it was like when they were building the Tower of Babel, and then like one of the Mefarshim say that the reason why it failed is because that's exactly what they were scared of. So exactly what they were scared of ended up happening to them. So I feel like that's like a very common idea. And then the same thing with the tzaddik, like
I feel like that's literally just our definition of the tzaddik.
Okay, so the reason why I was laughing is because I think one of the Mefarshim mentions Migdal Bavel as a result of in conjunction with this. I'm trying to remember if that's the case. It's not the Mefarshim that I chose. But yeah. So the question is, what is the chidush? So let's think about that. And I think the chidush lies in two areas. This is my intuition here: taiva and yitain. But let's think about that.
Can I suggest something?
Jump in. Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay, so I was thinking that maybe that the reason that it says taiva is because, like, okay, I'm sorry, I'm really inarticulate. I just need like a second.
Sure, that's fine. Yeah, take your time.
But just as a side note, that was why I wanted. I mean, because I agree with that question. That like, otherwise, it seems fairly straightforward, and that's why I was wondering if the "he will give" talks about a unique relationship, so to speak, between non-deserving people and deserving people.
Right.
And that we wouldn't necessarily know that intuitively. And that non-deserving people can get good outcomes because of righteous people.
Right. Yeah. And I'm open to that idea. I just, I mean, either way, the pasuk is difficult to read. But I also don't quite see, I think this is when you told me your idea and I kind of split it into two halves. I think it was because I didn't see the unity in I saw the explanation in isolation of yitain, and I heard what you were saying for the entire thing, but I don't see the unity. So maybe we could draw the idea from there.
I think I have words.
Okay. Good.
Okay. Maybe the reason is because like there are more righteous desires than like toivot, like chafta, whatever. But like, and those are the things that the righteous person is really desiring. But the fact that he's desiring those things and like being productive towards those things grants him some like deserving of being given these like extra unnecessary desires.
I see. Okay, so that is an interesting approach. So let me just restate it to make sure I understand it, and then let's see if we can find examples of this. We said tava is a weird word to use because that implies like an excessive desire or something like that, like some inappropriate desire, you know? So it's not a chidush. So and Shivr's using this to answer Rivki's question. So the Rivki's question was, obviously the tzaddik is going to like get benefits from the system, but what this is saying is not only is he going to get benefits from the system, he's going to be granted things that are beyond what he needs, which satisfy like desires that are like extra, so to speak. Is that what you're saying, Shifra? Okay. And so now the question is, how does that come about? And is that going to force us into taking one of these interpretations?
And also, what desires are we talking about? Are we just talking about regular desires, or right, are these special desires?
What I would use, I'll tell you what I think what I think this is talking about here. And in fact, maybe I'm only thinking about this because I've got one of my Stoicism books here, and it triggered the thought. Let me see if I can find it. If not, I'll just summarize it here. Okay, I'll just summarize it here. So there is but I'll summarize in Jewish terms, not in Stoic terms. Well, I'll mix them. There are things that we need, okay, like food and water and shelter and stuff, okay. And the tzaddik will certainly want his needs fulfilled because those are needs. And in order to function, then you need your needs fulfilled. That's what makes them needs. But there are other things that you don't need, but that would enhance your life. So for example, like Chazal say that if you have a beautiful house, you don't need a beautiful house, but if you have a beautiful house, it provides a certain type of I forgot the term they use in Hebrew, a certain type of like not peace of mind. They don't use that term, but it's a term like that. And we're talking for the tzaddik, meaning a person who is addicted to the world of physical pleasures or status is going to relate to a beautiful house as like a status symbol, or as it's going to like, you know, feed their fantasies of like I'm better than the other people, you know. But for the tzaddik, enjoying a beautiful house is something that is nice, you know, and or let's say like it allows him to do tzadikim stuff better, like he can have more guests, you know, in his house, or like make people feel comfortable, you know, or let's say like with food, you know, then like I don't know if I just I'll say this example. Just so when I was it's gonna sound weird. I'm not gonna record it. Hold on. Oh, it's gonna be annoying when I stop recording because it make the weird. Okay, we're gonna have to listen to the lady. Hold on. It's beyond your needs, but it's enjoyable. And for the fool or the Russia, that excess enjoyment poses a threat. But for the tzaddik, who is in a need-oriented value system, then this will just enhance the quality of life that he has. And it's saying that he's going to get those as well. And I think that so shiur, is that like a adequate like expansion on like the approach that you're taking? Okay, and
Yeah,
I think
definitely.
that good. I think this also works out for see. I think the Russia, that's the least likely of these things. Okay, but I think it does work out for Hashem, for the tzaddik, and for the unnamed giver. Meaning, like Naomi said, because the tzaddik is in line with Hashem's will, Hashem will provide him with even things beyond his needs. That's hashgacha, you know, and the tzaddik himself will be able to get these things because he's supporting the system that he's in, and people will be willing to give it. But Rivki, does this answer your question about what a chidush is here?
I feel like I still have to fully process it. It definitely helps, but I feel like I still have to like actually think through every point. We just
okay. I think the intuition. I think. I mean, shiur saved it, but I think the intuition was good. That Hava is just a weird word to use, and then Yitain does not correspond. So I think that's where it comes from.
Yeah, Rabbi Shneimos?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if this is like another point or adding on to what we're saying, but like maybe you can also say that the reason why he's the pasuk saying the word taiva is because maybe like the Russia maybe the connotation of taiva is, you know, is extreme, so to speak. It's like it's something that, you know, it's almost like you sometimes can control it, but it's like very, very difficult, and the desire, well, the taiva is just very strong, you know, and it's like you really want it. So maybe you can just like take that point and just apply it to the tzaddik, and like the tzaddik, like he wants this, you know, lifestyle, and he wants to fulfill the system. And that in itself, like that one is the taiva for that world he's trying to create. Like,
yeah, I mean that I think when someone mentioned earlier that it does use the word taiva in elsewhere, like in Tehillim and stuff, for tzadikim, and I do think it's used for that reason, because it's like, it means like Rambam uses it for Avas Hashem, you know, like it's a very, very powerful desire. I like shiur's idea or explanation better because it shows the chidush in the pasuk, whereas you know, this is a good interpretation of taiva, but I think this like makes it into part of the main idea here, you know.
Right. Yeah. I was just looking at another thought. Yeah.
No, I'm glad you're sharing it. Yeah. Okay, are we anything else to say on this approach here?
Just one difference, I think, between how you were structuring it and I think how I was thinking about it. I think it's like very similar overall, but just when you were talking about why the righteous person is working for the good of the system, this might be exactly related back to Ariel's point, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, but you were talking about how he might be doing that for his own personal benefit, and he just recognizes that. And I feel like, not to say that I don't see that as a possibility, but I feel like I was looking at it more as a desire to benefit the system rather than recognizing that the system will benefit him.
Right. Yeah. So my taking that side of it is from my understanding of Mishlei's tzaddik versus the tzaddik in Tehillim. You know, the Mishlei's tzaddik is selfish, and the tzaddik in Tehillim is doing it out of a desire to fulfill God's will, which is going to be a much more not like cost benefit analysis type thing. But I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying. That's why my mind went this way in Mishlei.
Yeah, according to Shifra's approach, are we reading like the last he as Hashem, meaning like that everything will come from Hashem?
I think that it is deliberately omitting the subject because it works for all three of these.
Can you explain how it would work with the Russia?
All three of these, not all four of these.
I can't count.
Yeah, the Russia, I don't think it works. Unless you're going to say something which I think is a stretch, which is that part of the ultimate expression of what the tzaddik is going to desire in a system, if they're with the Russia in it, is that the Russia will be defeated and all of the Russia's resources will go to tzaddik purposes. Like the example of that in Megillus Esther is Mordechai got control of the house of Haman and all of his legacy, or let's say like, in Mitzrayim, like the Jews got all of the stuff from, the Mitzrayim who oppressed them, and so it could be that it'll even come from the Russia.
I mean,
can you also say
that maybe the tzaddik knows how to manipulate the Russia. He can.
Right.
I mean, that goes back to the other pasuk, like he can orchestrate something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Can you repeat the idea of the first half about the fear of the wicked person again? I'm still a little confused.
Yeah. I'll repeat it, and then if anyone has a chidush that now that we've gotten the second half clear, then maybe we'll get the first half better. So the Russia's sole desire is to dominate the system for his own benefit, and systems can't take that. And at a certain point, the system will collapse or will revolt if it's a human system, and that's what he fears. And the more successful he is in achieving his vision, the more likely that fear will come true. So it's self-fulfilling in the sense that it is automatic. It's that his actions are producing that outcome, but it's like Shifra calls it, like consequentially self-fulfilling, not like psychologically self-fulfilling.
Do you think he knows that fear though? Because then why would he be a Russia? Like I guess like you couldn't not really like consciously know about it and think about it, but if he's thinking everything through and he's afraid that like at the end of the day it won't work out. Right.
So it is interesting because like in the example that Ariel was giving, then like the mafia or whatever, then I think they are aware of it because it's part of their practical reality. But what do you call it? But I think that there are a lot of Rishaim who are just going to be blind to it, Yeah. Okay. So were there any other what do you call it? Any other approaches that we wanted to explore, or should we look at Mefarshim?
I was thinking of like a half-baked idea, I guess. Sure. I didn't think it through so much, but maybe like the fear, if there is like a Russia who's in charge or like has power in the system, then like eventually the people will come to fear him, and in a bad way, and it will cause them to like desire a righteous one. Like a tzaddik, like they'll recognize that the Russia is really harming the system and harming them, and it'll make them like recognize the role of a leader in the system and make them want like a good leader, I guess.
Yeah, that's actually one theory as to why Yetzias Mitzrayim was necessary. That in order for Klal Yisrael to be servants of Hashem and to follow Hashem, they had to realize what the opposite is, and the opposite is a human being who makes himself into a god. And who oppresses everybody. And so they needed that experience of seeing what a melech basar v'dam, a human king who is who is completely successful as a human king, what that's like. And then that made them realize why you need the true king, and then that's going to lead to the best life. Yeah, that's a good nuance.
Another possible thought is that it could be that what the wicked person fears and what the righteous one desires is the same thing, and that could be justice, like ultimate, like divine justice. And so for the wicked person, that which he fears will come, and for the righteous person, that which he desires will also come, but the thing that he's desiring is that it's divinely given. And that's why I was saying he will give, because he's desiring it to be given. I think.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I just was going to say is what I think. What I'm the whole, and I feel like I'm always looking at it with the whole here. I feel like is similar, which is that what is this practically useful for?
Right. We didn't ask that. We didn't answer that. Yeah.
Right.
Are you answering that? Or you're asking?
No, I'm saying I it's another way of reading it, but I feel like it still has a little bit of the same challenge.
We definitely need to address that. I just want to say one more thing though, also, which is I just didn't say this clear enough, is that I think if you're gonna say this is Hashem, the tzaddik will recognize that all of this comes about through Hashem. Like even if it's through people, even if it's through himself, it's all he's gonna frame it as being from Hashem. The only reason I like saying that it's referring to all three of these, because it doesn't say Hashem. And like it could just very easily say Hashem. So I'm looking at it as though it is omitting. I don't like to make the whole idea dependent on it just being Hashem, because then why is it mentioned Hashem? So that's why I think like keeping it open is a better way to say it. But let's answer this question. So what is the who's the audience and what's the practical application here? So Ayala's approach does suggest who the audience is and what the practical application is, which is that if you are a member of a system in which you recognize that things are not working out, then the recognition that this is coming from a Rasha might prompt you to seek out someone who's going to be a tzaddik. Now, I'm not saying that you're always going to be able to do something about that, but like it does help the people in the system to be able to diagnose the problem. Yeah. But according to the other approach that we were doing, what would be the practical application here? We have a back of the pocket answer, not back of the pocket. There's not that much depth in the pocket. Like an answer that you keep in your back pocket, of people who are not tzadikim or rashayim, but who are being drawn towards one of those two extremes, or have the potential to become one of those. Like rashayim don't start off as rashayim. They start off as ambitious people who want power and who take an edge here and an edge here, and there's a certain point where Hitler would not have become Hitler, but then there's a point where like he's on that trajectory, and then he like goes all in on it, and so it might be referring to talking to someone who is not at the point of no return yet. And similarly, people who are on the fence about whether to be engaged in tzaddik type behaviors, like here's the thing. Many times the thing that holds someone back from acting like a tzaddik is you are too fearful for what's going to happen to yourself. You're like, you hear about those people, for example, who will like help anyone who needs it, and like they even will like, they won't like they'll take their paycheck and then like calculate how much money they need and then just like give the rest away to people who are in actual need, and like there is a certain fear that you might have of like, what if I don't get anything out of this, and I think sometimes, and with paycheck example, it might be hard to see that, but like certain times, like here's a great example. Okay, I was listening to a podcast today. The company Lululemon. So like the founder of Lululemon was talking about his business philosophy, and he said that what they try to do with their employees is he says their goal is for the employees to leave the company, and what they want to do is they want to produce people who are like, who have goals and who are fulfilling them, and they're using what they learn in working for Lululemon to like basically become better people and then go off and start their own businesses. So they have like a whole system of like 1 year plan. They make each of their people like have like a 1 year plan, a 5 year plan, and a 10 year plan. And this guy was saying how like people look at his company and say like, what are you doing? Like what kind of a strategy is that? And he said, he said, I have a conviction that if enough people learn what makes a good business and become good employees from Lululemon, and that we are encouraging them to pursue their dreams and training them with all the skills that they need and stuff, that's going to be good for our company. Like that's going to be the best marketing and stuff, ever. And like, you could see someone being held back and say, well, why would we want to create a company that like our best people are like going off elsewhere, And he was having this mentality of like, no, like if I do what's best for the system, it's ultimately going to be the best for me also. So it's an incentive,
This isn't directly related, but do we have to be reading fear as like the tzaddik's fear, or can we read it as in like a different
Russia's fear?
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay. What would be a different reading?
Like I was thinking, this is just the first thing that came to my head because I feel like maybe this will give us a different approach that isn't as like, I don't want to say basic because that has a negative connotation. But I was thinking maybe like fear of him. Like, is that possible?
Yeah, that was one thing that someone suggested, I think. Oh yeah. Is it referring to the fear that the wicked person has? That's the way we were taking it, or is it referring to the fear of the wicked? Yeah. I don't. My problem with that is it might work out grammatically. What does that mean, though? Fear of the wicked will come.
I mean, I guess I was thinking from his actions, and then like it could go two ways. I was thinking it could either go that it would go negatively for him, meaning that like if people are afraid of you, it can go in the way of people not wanting to be associated with you, or it could be more like the mafia like type. I don't know if that's what Ariel was saying, but like it's a good example. Yeah.
No, I hear what you're saying. So in other words, people are fearful of the Russia, and then that's going to create problems for him. But the pasuk would not be saying what the problems are. It's just saying that it's just pointing out the phenomenon that people are going to be afraid of him.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, it'll still have the same results as in our approach, I think.
As you were saying, yeah, that is definitely a thing. Okay, I was rereading. Okay, last night I was rereading. Anyone ever read the book Matilda? So they, the one of the characters in Matilda is the Trunchbull, who is like the feared principal, who's like this evil person, and it mentions that even her like staff was afraid of her, and like everyone just had this approach of we just want to steer clear from no matter what. That's not going to work out, like that's not going to work out in a company, or a school, or like certainly in a parenting situation, like a parent who like has one of these old school approaches of just instilling like terror in their kid, that is not going to lead to a healthy kid or a healthy family or a healthy relationship, So yeah, that does work out, Ricky. That's good.
According to what I said before, I was also taking it as like fear of the Russia.
Okay, so say
like people fearing him.
Okay, and say again, just remind me what you said again. I know I just said it a little while ago, but
yeah, I was saying like if a Russia is in power or in a position of power, then eventually people will recognize or like notice that he is like harming the system and them, and they will fear him, and then their fear of him will give desire for a righteous leader.
I see.
So I'm saying he is the one who will give in the second half also.
I see. Okay, that is, I like what you said before, but this is even better with the reading. And the best example of that, I mean, God willing, is North Korea. I mean, talk about a place where you have absolute fear of the leader, and like, the hope is that that's what's going to ultimately lead for the North Korean people to seek freedom, of just like realizing that this is not good, and like it could be something else.
Another way, like using Ayala's approach, I feel like you can get a good practical takeaway.
Yeah.
And I think it's maybe a slight variant, but it's basically saying like if you fear a wicked person, then it'll lead you to desiring righteous people, like righteous leaders, righteous people around you. And then your desire for that will then make that so like God gives that to you. Or natural occurrences by desiring it, you'll make it more likely. So then the objective of this pasuk would be to fear following or being around wicked people.
Right. That's a good point. And in terms of God granting it, I mean, that is what it says in I mean, it's slightly different because God made a promise to the Avos, but like the mechanics are like that in the beginning of Shemos when it says Vayehi bayamim harabim hahem vayamas melech mitzrayim v'yanchu b'nei Yisrael min ha'avoda. So it was in those many days that the king of Egypt died, and Bnei Yisrael groaned because of the work. Vayizaku, and they cried out. V'ta'al shavasam el haLokim min ha'avoda, and their outcry to God from the avoda went up. Vayishma Elokim es na'akasam, and God remembered their outcry. Sorry, heard their outcry. Vayizkor Elokim es priso es Abraham es Yitzchak es Yaakov, and He remembered their covenant, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. And I think the Sforno says that God was responding to them. So the tzadikim were praying to God, and God responded to that, and that's ultimately what got them out. But the regular people were just having an outcry because of the oppression, and God listens to that, and like that somehow influenced the way that it all played out. And I don't remember the details, but yeah.
I do like that, although I guess the way I was thinking about it in that format was almost like, because y'all was talking about leaders, and like, so if you fear wicked leaders, then that'll lead you to desire good leaders, and if you desire good leaders, then that means God will give you good leaders.
That is much more than what Klal Yisrael were doing.
Right, and can arguably like apply that to like a Mashiach type of outcome. So it's like, how do you get to Mashiach? It's like a process of fearing bad leaders leads you to desire good leaders. Desiring good leaders leads you to getting that good leader.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, and that's a good example too. All right, in the interest of time, I just want to do two last steps. One is just to read. We don't have time to go through one of the Mefarshim with a new idea, but I just want to show you the way that some of the Mefarshim said this idea. And again, these are the Mefarshim, and unless you get like a juicy Rabbeinu Yonah who explains it in detail, it's going to be in a much more sparse way of reading. So the Radak says, Megoras Rasha, Hadavar shaharash mispachad mimenu, the thing that the Rasha is afraid of, sheyavuehu michshol, that will cause a stumbling block for him. Al hara'a sheyaseh lo yimalet shelo yavalo hapachadahu ki akel nifra mimenu. He will not, the evil that he did, he will not escape from. As a result of it, he will not escape from that fear. Ki akel nifra mimenu, because God will punish him. Okay, Tavas Tzadikim Mitain, Hashem Gomel Tova LaTzadikim, Hashem will grant good, will repay the good to the Tzadikim. Kilo Daishlo Yifchadu Mishum Davar, not only will they not be afraid of anything, of Almashi is Avu Yitain Land, but that which he desires, he will give to them. God will give to them. Kilo Rashaim Yavi Migurasam, God will bring the fear that the Russia has to him. Ula Tzadikim Yamale Mishalos Libam, and for the Tzadikim, he will fulfill the desires of their heart. Now, it's very hard to get from the Radak an idea. What he's doing is he's setting up how to read the pasuk, and I think the type of discussion that we had is getting to the mechanics and to the specifics of what he's saying. And I just want to point out, because it's a thing that happens again stylistically with certain Mefarshim. Let's say like Mitzu's David is a good example of this. He's never going to spell out an idea in full, because that's not his style of commentary. He's very terse. He's going to write one thing. So that's really another reason why I advocate going through the Mefarshim, going through the pasuk without the Mefarshim first, because then you could develop an idea. And when you see one of the Mefarshim who takes that approach, it kind of like lights up. But if you did it the other way around, if you read what they said and then tried to dig out an idea, sometimes it's much harder to do that. Like thinking naturally is going to be more productive in many cases. Again, Mefarshim are fine to use in the beginning if you have no other resource, but I think at this point everyone in the shiur can like take the step of like learning this first. Last thing I want to say, and this is kind of a Hamavin Yavin type thing, so I'll put it in terms that maybe could be understood by everybody, but then Hamavin Yavin for like other things. Lately in my morning Mishlei shiur, we've been exploring pasukim that have to do with a society or with systems. Can you apply them not only to the external systems, but the internal systems and to your psyche? And I think that this works for, our idea works for that also, which is that you have many, your psyche is very complex and you have many different parts that have, that ideally would all work together in a healthy whole. And the sooner you realize that like there is a system and that your overall function will work better if all your parts are working together, then the more then the closer you'll get to success and to and you'll get your desires. And the opposite is also true, that if you oppress your internal parts, if you oppress parts of your psyche, and like either don't listen to them or shove them out of the picture or whatever, so then that's going to lead to major problems. And if you want a popular depiction of this, look no further than Pixar's fairly recent movie, Inside Out, because that's kind of the moral of the movie. That if you haven't seen that movie, then you should watch it. So that's for a later time, but I had to mention that because of certain discussions. So yeah.
And the book is called what?
Nothing.
Also, is what you're saying, to translate this pasuk into that for a person's own internal success, that they should acknowledge, so to speak, the negative aspects of themselves head on, rather than trying to avoid it, because that will like create a self-fulfilling prophecy. And then
not only self-fulfilling prophecy. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
And then just like focusing on the desire for righteousness within oneself, that like everybody has both. So acknowledging and focusing is the way to get the best outcome.
Right, but I am saying something. So I don't know if this is what you're saying or not, but I'm saying there's righteousness in terms of how you relate to other people, but then there's righteousness to how you relate to the parts of your own psyche and to your own emotions. And like you said, with the negative emotion, like there is another book I'm reading, which I'm only halfway through, but I could recommend. I could recommend the idea. The book is called Radical Acceptance, and it is about allowing yourself to experience and accept all of the parts of your like all of your emotions, and being able to like sit with them and to relate to them compassionately, and that being an integral part of a component to like flourishing as a human being. So that's like doing righteousness to yourself. Yeah. Okay, let us stop the official shiur here. And I know that in yeshiva mincha is at 9:30. Not mincha, Mariv is at 9:30, so we'll have a shorter after party, but that's okay. And so plan is 3 more shiurim at least, bli neder, and then we'll see where it goes after that. Okay, everybody, thanks for joining. Bye, Suzanne.
Could I say something?
Yeah, go ahead, Shifra.
Okay, I was thinking this, and then you brought up the like psyche thing, and I think it's relevant to that. But I think it's cool. Maybe there's like a parallel to the type of like fear and like desires that it was talking about, because those are both not like, those were not the primary driving forces of either one of the characters. Like the Russian wasn't being driven by his fear, and the Tzaddik wasn't being driven by his like baseline desires, but like those were both like second tier, I guess, like feelings, I don't know, like concerns or whatever, like in the brains of them. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, but the Russias were both selfish. Like the Russia's primary, like he's being a Russia for selfish reasons. He's not doing it for like, I mean, at least, I mean, it would be a really bad Russia to be like, I want to mess up the entire system. It's like, I think most Russias are just like trying to get by for themselves. And then his second brain, whatever, is like fear, like, oh, but what if I get caught? And then like the thought is like,
that's
like,
the point.
Yeah. So I think they're
inside. He's got his power. The Russia is not integrated in his psyche. He's got the part of him that wants the desire and the part of him that's fearing this, and those two are not in line. Whereas the tzaddik is completely in line.
Right.
Right. Oh, that's good. Yeah. That's like a comment. That's like seeing the hidden idea, like the internal idea in the external idea. That's a good this new level of mishlei. Yeah.
I was just thinking about how you were talking about the internal aspects, and I'm not sure how similar this is to what Shifra was just saying, because I was kind of thinking about this thought, but is what I was sort of taking what you were originally saying, which I think is a bit different than how you explained it at the end there. Was that I think within every person there is, positive and negative drives.
Yeah.
And I think that there's 2 lessons that is coming out, like two actionable items that is coming out from the pasuk. The first actionable item, or I'll start with the second. The second actionable item is that just desiring to do good is a beneficial thing. That in of itself, just the desire is a beneficial thing. Meaning we think a lot of time of good as actions, of doing things. And here it's sort of framing it as the desire itself as being an action, as leading to that outcome. And then in the first half, I think that this was, I think where it gets very similar is that the avoidance of negative drives isn't going to help a person deal with them, so just blind fear, so to speak, and avoidance isn't the right way to interact with those negative drives.
That's a good point, and that might have been what what Mayan and Avital were picking up on when they wanted to make the fear itself into the decision in the pasuk. Like it does read that way, and I do think I do think like the way that we explained it also reads that way, but not as directly, because like the main character is not the Russia and not the tzaddik, but the fear of the Russia and the desire of the tzaddik, so to speak. Yeah, it's a good observation.
Wait, so is there a difference between what Shifra and Zach just said, or they're just like saying the same idea?
I think that it could be the same but different emphasis, because Shifra was talking about it from the way I was saying it, which is the warring parts within the Russia are what leads him to do the evil acts. And Zach is putting the emphasis on, like, therefore, on the words of the pasuk, that the fear is really the main driving force behind the thing. I think that's how I perceived it. It all goes to the same place. Yeah. Yep. Oh, Rivki, did you have a Mishlei moment like that you wanted to talk about, not in the shiur but in the after party, or just a separate Mishlei moment?
I feel like it's separate. Well,
okay,
I have a different one actually. It happened today.
Yeah.
Okay. Basically, this is just another plug for Mishlei.
Okay, yeah.
So today I took a final. It was my neuroscience final, and it started at 6:30, whatever. It ended like right when Mishlei was starting at like 8:20, whatever.
Yeah.
And what was happening was, for some reason, there was like a lot of technical difficulties on Blackboard, which is like the platform we use to take, our test, whatever. Yeah. And I was obviously very, very, very frustrated, especially because it was my final. And don't get me wrong, I came out of it and I was like very upset and like very, triggered. And then I just like went straight into Mishlei like this year. Yeah. And at first I was like just sitting there and I was like, basically like harumph. Like I felt very that's the only word I can use.
Yeah.
And, but I did realize though, like as time went on, like I became gradually less and less frustrated, just because I was realizing like it was just such a good balance between like being frustrated about something that literally doesn't actually matter, and then like being in actual Mishlei shiur and realizing like, okay, like is this really going to affect me like in 4 seconds?
That's really good, and having the experience is really good because it really reminds you of what role learning should play in your life. Like, I think it's very easy to get caught up in the like in the getting ideas out of learning and like the applying of ideas. But what you're talking about is the involvement in learning pulls you out of all the stuff that doesn't really matter and puts you in a world of ideas and of chachma and of enjoyment that really does matter, and lets you like become less attached to that other thing. And like, and the extreme examples of this, I mean, this is extreme, but like, that when that Rav, the Rav, so Rav Soloveitchik mentioned that like during the worst times of his avelus, like there's that summer when he like lost his wife and his mother and like someone else, maybe his brother, and like he said it was really learning with his grandchildren that like got him out of that. And I don't think he just meant like it was a distraction. I don't think it was just like, he could have watched TV or he could have like learned with his grandkids. It's like learning involves your mind and your psyche in a completely different way. And like, that's a reason alone to have learning in your life. Like, even if you didn't remember any ideas, just the involvement in the objective reality does that.
Yeah, I wasn't even thinking about it like that, but like I really like that idea because I was just thinking more like it literally is Mishlei, and like I think I wasn't even thinking of like a specific Mishlei idea. It was more just like Mishlei in general. But yeah,
yeah. Okay, let's call it quits for tonight, and we'll resume Bleed Dinner next week.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Good night, everybody. Bye.
Bye.